Hey, good morning. Today,
Morning.
let me start this slideshow here. Today's class, we're going to talk about the listing process. And again, last week we talked about the listing presentation and what to say, what to bring, what to do during the listing presentation. And hopefully they sign the listing contract. And now that you have the listing contract signed, what do you do? And we're going to go over, summarize a little bit of the pre-listing preparation tasks. We're going to just touch on the listing presentation tips and then post-listing agreement tasks. So like, what do you do after you get the listing agreement signed? And pre-listing preparation and tasks. So before you go to the listing appointment, I think just once you get your license, you should order a for sale sign. You should have one on hand in case you never know, you might get a listing within your first week. We've had agents, brand new agents, they got a listing within the first month of getting the license. So have that for sale sign on hand so that way you don't have to like rush to try to get one, and some open house signs. So, and you want to order, I don't know, anywhere from 15 to 20 open house signs because you want to direct traffic to the open house from multiple entrances of the neighborhood. Morning, come on in.
Hey. Special class, huh? Is that?
Yeah, well, we have some on Zoom too.
Uh,
So I was saying, first thing you want to do before you go on any listing appointment or just had to have on hand is a for sale sign, your open house signs. Maybe a sign writer that says for lease or in escrow or sold or whatever in addition to it. And you can go to rssforsigns.com to order the for sale signs. They don't say for sale, they just have the Coldwell Banker logo, your name, your phone number, your DRE number, and again, that's why you would buy the sign writers that say for sale and release them. Or you can make some custom signs that say for sale in big letters. And make sure they say Coldwell Banker Platinum Properties on them.
You're not forced to put a for sale sign on the house, are you?
No, no, on the listing agreement, there's a section that talks about, do they want a for sale sign on the property or not, or, yeah. And they can opt out of it.
And then if the house closes, how fast do you have to take that down? How many is it? There's a certain amount of days.
I would take it off after like the day that you hand over the keys, yeah. Okay, the other thing you wanna do is purchase a lockbox. If you're gonna get a listing, you need to put a lockbox on there with a key if you're gonna allow showings or if the seller's gonna allow showings. And you can purchase that from Orange County Realtors. Subscribe to Super eKey, which is the app that opens the lockbox, but also releases the shackle for you to be able to install the lockbox onto either the doorknob or like a side gate or something. And then you're also gonna wanna add the lockbox to your Super account. So you're gonna go create a Super account, and add the lockbox using a serial number that the lockbox has. So that associates it with your account, which later on you can use to assign a listing to it. Because you might have, so the reason is you might have a couple of different lockboxes, maybe let's say 2, 3, or 4 lockboxes. And let's say you have 2, 3, or 4 listings and all the lockboxes are installed. And someone shows the property, you get a notification from lockbox serial number 775-231, whatever it is. Then you're wondering, oh damn, which property is that? So when you log into your Super account and you assign a property address to the specific lockbox, then when you get notifications, you know that someone's viewing 123 Main Street. So it's easier for you to keep track of that way.
and these are required, right? Nobody's using those older lock
Some people use
combination.
combination, yeah.
Okay,
It's up to you what you want to use, but
Yeah, I've seen the master lock. The different kind
the
of.
ones with the buttons
Yeah. So
or the combination that you
it's
spend.
like a little dial thing.
Yeah, some people use those combination lock boxes.
okay.
But I think you see the most from agents that are from out of the area because they don't have a Supra.
Mhm.
Or like if you have, or areas that don't use Supra. That way you can just give the combination to whatever agents in the area. So now we're gonna talk about the pre-listing preparation summary. So now we're talking about before you get the listing or go to the listing appointment. Obtain the property profile. So again, this is a summary of what we talked about before. Obtain the property profile from the title company and pull up the realist tax report. This gets you information on who the owner is, characteristics of the property, bedrooms, bathroom square footage, when they purchased it, things like that. Go on the MLS and look for any comps to help you come up with a listing, suggest a listing price. Prepare the CMA for the listing appointment, so now that you have your comps, you can add your marketing plan, you can add your about me, I'm the best agent in the world, this is why you should work with me type stuff. Make a little booklet or whatever you want to do, or prepare it digitally. And go to Zip Forms and print out a blank listing agreement. Take that with the listing appointment, to the listing appointment. And now that you're at the listing appointment, again, we're just gonna quickly summarize what to do there. You're gonna tour the property. And why are you gonna tour the property? Because you wanna see what features the property has. Morning, come on in. Because you wanna see what features the property has. It's one thing to know the characteristics of it, but touring the property allows you to ask questions. Is, was anything newer? Or is what in the property is original? Or what type of flooring is this? What type of counters are these? And you're gonna take notes as you go through the property. You're gonna discuss the client's goals. So you're gonna discuss price, timeline, move date, etc. Identify improvements at the property, we talked about that. Discuss comparable properties. So after you tour the property and you discussed any improvements, or if the property is original, whatever the case may be, you can sit down and discuss what the comparable sales are, what's on the market, discuss pricing and timing strategy. And so when you're sitting down talking about showing them the evidence of the recent sales, you also want to discuss the days on market and what the original list price was and when it sold, or what it sold for. So that way, that's going to help you when discussing price. The ones that were listed for higher and reduced their price were on the market longer. The ones that came in at more market price sold faster. Okay. And you can discuss timing strategy as to like, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, would you like to sell it quickly because you have to move right away? Maybe you have a job offer that you have to move to. We're going to price it right. Or are you okay with sitting on the market? Are you, do you have another place to stay? Did you purchase another property? So whatever the case may be, if they want to get top dollar, then it'll sit on the market longer and wait for the right buyer. Discuss your marketing plan. So last week, Shweta was telling us with her listing presentation, she doesn't really discuss her marketing plan unless they ask her. But you should have one ready just in case. This is what I'm going to do to market your property, and have like a list of whatever you do for them and what it includes. And then sign the residential listing agreement. Somewhere along this whole meeting, they're going to ask about price. So I would discuss pricing after you talk about your marketing plan, what you're going to do for them, everything you're going to do for them, even the smallest thing. Just have a big list of things, because you want to justify what you're asking for commission wise. And this is a copy of the listing agreement, just so you guys can see. So you got the listing, what do you do next? It's time to prove your value. Emphasize proactive communication, preparation, and marketing. So what you want to do is you want to prepare the seller's disclosures and have those ready up front, because this is important. It is very important. Let me bring up some examples. There's been times where an agent accepts an offer, right, for the listing they have, and then they start doing the seller disclosures, preparing them, sending them to the seller to sign, to fill out and sign. Well, the seller's busy, or the seller went on vacation and they don't have access to whatever. And now time is of the essence. You have to get these out as soon as possible. The later you send them out, the more time the buyer has to remove contingencies, if that's the case, if it gets to that point. So what I like to do is, before even going on the market, before putting in the MLS, have the seller sign all the seller's disclosures, so that way that's all ready. So that when you do accept an offer, that same day you send out the seller's disclosures. And now that's out of the way. It's one less thing you have to do later on, or chase the seller down for signatures or whatever it is. You want to schedule a professional photo shoot. Previewfirst.com is a website that most of our agents use here. You can log onto the website, schedule when you want the photo shoot to be, the property address, and then pay for it up front. They're very reasonable and they do regular photographs, they do twilight pictures, they do drone shots, they do community pictures, they do videos, Matterport, all that stuff, and it's all added services that you can purchase.
I have a question on the
Yes.
photos. So let's say you got the listing, you got the photos and I have to pay for it, right? Like as the agent?
You don't have to do anything. If you can negotiate that they pay for it and they're still willing to sign with you, you can do that. But most agents pay for the photos.
So let's say we pay for it and then the listing expires. What happens? Do I get compensated from the seller or no?
Not unless you wrote something into the listing agreement.
I see.
So some people will write into the listing agreement, like there's some agents that'll pay for staging
Mhm.
and for photos and all, and marketing and whatever, right? Everyone pays for marketing. But some agents will write like something into the terms of the listing agreement that says, if the seller cancels for any reason, they will reimburse the listing agent for marketing, for photos, for staging,
Okay. Only if they cancel, not
If
if
they
it
cancel.
expires.
right? If they cancel.
Gotcha.
You can also enter in there if it expires, but
Right.
good luck with that.
I see. Okay.
For that question, if a listing expired, all these photos are on the MLS,
Mhm.
and then they sign with a new agent. Can that new agent use those old photos?
No.
Or?
No.
Okay, that's,
Yeah, first of all, you have the photos, the owner doesn't have the photos
Yeah.
because you paid for it. And second, the MLS copyrights them, so once they're on their website, you can't take them, download them and then reuse them again because they have a watermark on it. So the MLS, I don't know if they have some like AI or something that just goes through the MLS to look for double watermarks. Because once you upload it once, it adds a watermark. If you download it and add it to another listing, now it's gonna have another watermark on top of that. So the system looks for double watermarks and then you get fined for that. So I wouldn't do it. I'm sure some agents do it, but I wouldn't do it.
Carlos, I have a quick question.
Yes.
So I have a friend who's gonna be selling her father's house. And I believe I'm the listing agent, but I haven't really gone through all the formalities of it. She has a friend that wants to do the staging. How would that work? Like she pays her directly to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, because she said, oh, I have a friend and that's what she's thinking right now. So like if that happens, that's separate for me,
So
right?
something you can recommend is, just have her write, sign an agreement with her friend saying that she'll pay her out of the seller's proceeds after escrow closes. And I'm sure
And she'll,
her friend should be okay with that, right? If their friends should be like, hey, otherwise, if her friend has a business doing it, then she might have to pay up front, who knows? But she can
okay,
do that,
okay, sounds good. Thank you.
yeah. So when you schedule the photo shoot, you take the opportunity to remind the seller to declutter, to depersonalize the house, right? Buyers don't want to walk into a property and see another family's photos in the house. They want to visualize themselves in the house and their families. So take down any photos, family photos, and declutter like the magnets on the refrigerator, all the knickknacks on the countertops and the shelves and everything. Try to make it look as clean as possible. So that's your opportunity there to bring that up to them. Also curb appeal, maybe they can manicure, the bushes or whatever it is, the yard, the front yard, make it look a little cleaner. Curb appeal always helps. So photos, video, drone, 3D tours, Matterport floor plans. These are all things that agents use. You also want to gather community information, utility information, feature list, HOA docs if applicable. Let's see. Another thing you want to do, because you're going to enter this into the MLS, right? When you have a listing, you have to enter into the MLS within 2 days of the beginning listing date. So you have to be prepared to. It's a big form that asks you a lot of questions about the property. So what I like to do is search the MLS for the previous time that it was listed, and you're going to get a lot of information about the property from the last time it was listed. So it's going to ask questions like how fireplaces, where's there a fireplace in the house if there is? bedroom, living room, family room, backyard, whatever it is. What about heating? What type of heating is it? Or what type of cooling is it? Or, are there shared walls? Are there, how many car garage? Is there a main floor bedroom? Like a bunch of questions that you're gonna have to answer. That you don't wanna have to call the seller every time you had a question, right? What you could do is answer to the best of your ability and maybe use the last MLS printout to help you answer that. And then even before going on to the MLS, going live, send a copy of it to the seller and say, hey, does this look right? Otherwise, if there's changes, then of course you're gonna make the changes, right? But yeah, search a previous listing of the property from the MLS before you enter the property into the MLS. Search for other properties in the tract, maybe on the same street that have recently sold, because that might have more information about the, let's say, about the HOA that you didn't have on the last listing. Such as the name of the HOA, the phone number of the HOA, what the HOA fees are. There might be 2 HOAs, and maybe on the previous listing, the agent never added that information. So if you see that on another listing, that'll help you when adding the listing to the MLS. And you wanna have a copy of the property profile handy. Again, this has more information as to like bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage that are permitted. So maybe the last listing says it was a 5-bedroom, but it's really a 4-bedroom and a loft or something. And the tax records will reflect that. So you wanna use that information. And then the square footage is gonna be per the assessor when you're using the property profile or the tax records. Then you're gonna submit the listing to the MLS along with showing instructions. So remember we talked about the lockbox, saw in the lockbox. If you're gonna do that with the lockbox, you can one of the options in the MLS is there a lockbox on the property? It's gonna be yes or no. If there is, you're gonna click yes. And within that same page, it'll ask you what the showing instructions are. And you can write in either contact or text agent or email agent with desired showing time and date and wait for response. Or there's another option that says use showing time. Showing time is another app that you can use to schedule the showings. Where if the buyer's agent clicks on showing time, it's gonna show me a calendar of available times and dates. And then I'm gonna select the time and date that I want. It's gonna notify the listing agent still has to approve it. So there's that way, or contact the agent directly, or there's some agents, maybe the home's vacant, they say just go direct. You don't have to call me, you don't have to schedule, just go. So it depends on what you agree to with the seller, what the seller's okay with. So that's showing instructions. And remember to add the listing to SkySlope. So you're gonna submit the listings to the MLS for all the agents to see. And not only is it gonna go to the MLS, but it's also gonna go out to every portal that shows real estate listings, Zillow, Redfin, Remax, C21, LA Times, OC Register, New York Times, every website that has properties, it's gonna end up shooting that out to that. And then add the listing to SkySlope. And again, SkySlope is a transaction management website that we use to keep track of our transactions. So we need a copy, as the brokers, we need a copy of the listing agreement. Well, why do we need it? Well, first of all, we're required by the DRE to have a copy of it, of any listings, because the listings belong to the broker and not to the agent. So keep that in mind. And let's say the seller calls, the owner of the company calls Richard and says, hey, Shrill's not doing his job. I want to cancel the listing. And Rich needs a copy of the listing contract to be able to fight for you, right? So he can log into SkySlope and say, okay, let me look at the listing contract, see what it says. What is Shrill not doing for you? Oh, he's not, he told me he was gonna hold an open house every single day of the week. And well, the listing agreement didn't say that. So where is there, did you get that in writing? Does it say somewhere that you did? Or that's a bad example. Maybe you're supposed to list it at 2 million, but you listed it at 1.5 million. Okay. All right, it says here that you're supposed to list it for 2 million, but you listed it at 1.5. Okay, let me talk to them. Or maybe it wasn't true. Maybe they agreed to 1.5, but they wanted you, or they're saying that they want you listed at 2 million. And Richard can look at the contract and say, no, the listing contract says 1.5, so he did what he's supposed to do. Anyway, he can fight for you, right? And he'll have more information.
So once you upload to MLS everything will update like Zillow, Redfin automatically?
Let's see, media marketing, asset collection. So now you're gonna begin to market the property. So the property's in the MLS, you gave us a copy of the listing contract. Now you wanna start marketing the property. And the first step is the MLS, because the MLS again shoots it out to all the other websites. So that's the first marketing there. You wanna design a property flyer, you can do that on Moxie Impress or Listing Concierge, or you can go on Canva and create a flyer for it. Because you've already scheduled the photos and by now you should have had the pictures, right? So you're gonna use the pictures to create a flyer. Maybe you want to do mailers or postcards to send it out to your farm or to the surrounding neighbors of that neighborhood, that property. You wanna post it on social media. You wanna email it out via e-marketing, so maybe you send it out to, you can send it to me to send out to the office, all the agents here in our office. You can send it out, there's flyer services that you can pay for that have a list of like thousands of agents throughout Orange County and LA. You can pay for that to go out, and I think it's $20 or $30 for an email to go out to all those agents. You can also send it out if you have a client list. So now you're doing print marketing with the mailers and flyers. You're doing social media marketing with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. Now you're doing e-marketing with the emails that you're emailing to people. And open house. So open houses, they're not always good for selling the house. It's good to show the seller that you're actually doing something, because they're wondering, what are they doing? Are they even earning their money? Because they're paying you a lot of money, right? And you might pick up some buyers out of this, right? So you're making the seller happy because you're showing the property. You're sitting there for a few hours, Saturday, a few hours Sunday. And so you get to showcase the property, you got people to see it, but also you're gonna pick up some buyers. So that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Keep in mind, guys, that in other states, attorneys handle real estate transactions. They write up the contract. Attorneys, they went to law school. They did, all this education and they handle contracts, legal contracts. You're doing that. So again, you're getting paid a lot of money, but because you're handling legal contracts. So be very, very thorough when you're doing this stuff. Next, you can install the for sale sign if the owner is okay with it. And you want to contact the sign company because there's different communities with different sign restrictions. So maybe West Park, that's where our office is here, they might have certain signs that they require you to use, maybe a certain color, certain size. So the sign companies usually have this information and they have those signs on hand. So make sure that when you order the signs for that specific, let's say you have your regular for sale sign like that on the screen, but this community in particular, they don't allow those signs. So you want to contact the sign company and say, hey, are there specific signs for this community? If they say no, then move forward and use that sign. If they say yes, then order the sign. It's probably gonna be a one-time use, but you're making a lot of money on it, so. And then install the lockbox. And again, you can install the lockbox on the front door, on the side gate, wherever, right? But on the MLS, you're gonna, if you select yes, if there's a lockbox, you're gonna write in the showing instructions, the lockbox is found right side of the house on the gate, or whatever it is. Set seller expectations, feedback, updates, timelines. So you want to update them with feedback, right? So any other agents that show the property, or even from your open houses, what feedback are you getting? Are agents saying this is overpriced? Are they saying this house looks smaller in person? Are they saying, this house is really nice? Whatever it is, just gather all the feedback. You want to update your seller and let them know what people are saying, right? Because maybe they're overpriced. And you're getting all these emails from agents saying, hey, my client likes it, but it's way overpriced, right? So now you have that to show them. And you told them from the beginning, hey, I think that's a little high. Now you're getting this as evidence. Updates can be, maybe there's you want to update them on how many people came to the open house on Saturday, how many came on Sunday. At the end of the week, let's say Monday morning, say, hey, here's a summary of the weekend. We had 10 people come through the open house on Saturday, 7 people on Sunday. Most of them were neighbors, some of them were real buyers, some had their agents, whatever it is, but it shows that you're working, shows them that you're paying attention, right? And the previous week, we had 5 showings. Nobody submitted any offers yet. One agent said that they're really interested in submitting an offer, but we haven't heard back. But updates show that you're working, that you're not just sitting there. There's some agents that don't do anything. They put it on the MLS and they just wait for someone to contact them. They don't do open houses. They don't show the property. They just let other agents sell it. You want to show that you're actually worth what you're getting paid. So, updates, right? Timeliness, is it timeliness or is it timelines?
Timelines.
So if we just add an S, it would be timeliness? Because they both work here. So you wanna update them as soon as possible with everything, but also timelines as to like what you're gonna be doing when. So hey, we're gonna have an open house on Saturday and Sunday from this time to this time. If they're living in the home, we need you out of the house for that time. Or we have 3 showings this week, one on Tuesday, one on Friday, one on Saturday. So let them know when everything's gonna happen. Let's see, weekly update calls or emails, what's happening, showing feedback, we talked about that. So you also wanna update them on what's going on in the market in the neighborhood. You wanna let them know what their competition is, right? So if they're the only listing in the neighborhood, and then all of a sudden there's another listing across the street, you wanna let them know, hey, another listing just came on the market across the street for $20,000 less than yours. Just let them know. You're not saying you need to drop your price, you're not saying that you need to increase your price, you're just letting them know, hey, this is what's going on. Or 2 of them just closed this week, one for this price, one for this price. And it's a similar floor plan as yours. So let them know, right? Or one of them just went into escrow. We both listed it at the same time, but theirs is an escrow. Right? And this is what their price at, this is what your price at. So these are all updates, these are all things you want to let them know. You don't want to bombard them with information because they might get tired of you. But again, send a couple emails out during the week, just to reach out, to let them know you're working. And then talk about price adjustments, is it too high? Maybe at the end of the week, if you haven't had any showings at all. Maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, you can start talking about price adjustments. You want to monitor days on market, showing count, feedback themes, again, too expensive, maybe too old. Online traffic. Market shifts. There's been a market shift in the last couple months here, where prices are dropping a little bit. Properties are sitting on the market longer, that's a market shift. Online traffic. There's a tool called List Track. When you go into My CV Desk, and you see all the different tiles on there, there's one that's called List Track. You click on that one, it'll show you any listing you have. If you click on it, it shows you a report of how many clicks it's gotten, how many views it's gotten online, on Zillow, on all the different websites, on the MLS. And that's a good report if you want to use that. If your client's like, hey, well, where is it showing up? Well, I'm glad you asked, here's a report. So you can either print out the PDF or email the PDF to them, or a live link, so that when they click on it, it shows, anytime they go back and click on it, it's live information.
It does that automatically, or you have to set that up?
Well, it's a one-time email you're sending. You might be able to set it up to go out once a month or something.
No, but the list track, like the track will.
No, it's automatic. So once you go into mycvdesk.com, you log in, you click on the tile that says list track, and then it's gonna show you a list of your listings. You're gonna select that listing, and then it'll show you a report, an online report, but you can also download the PDF of it or print it out, whatever you want to do with it. That's a pretty cool thing to use. So if you're gonna hold an open house, there's a couple things you're gonna need. You're gonna want booties or shoe covers, so that people don't track mud through the house, or whatever it is. The owner took their time to clean the house, make it look nice, and then just for people to walk through the house and track mud through it, you don't want to do that. So you can either ask visitors to remove their shoes or to wear shoe covers. And again, you can get shoe covers from the title company. You can contact Mary with Lori's title, she'll get you some shoe covers. And then if you need a flyer stand for your flyers, it's important to have flyers of the property there at the open house, because buyers might be looking at different properties that day. They might look at 10 properties that day. And then they like this one, but they don't remember which one, what address it was. They just remember it had a really nice kitchen and that made the difference, but I just don't remember which house it was. So let them take a flyer. Right, and then you can even have pens there, like with your contact information, so if they wanna write notes on the flyer on what they liked about it, what they don't like about it. But property flyers are important, and you can get a flyer stand from the title company as well. Otherwise, you just lay them flat on the table and maybe the buyers don't see them. You wanna advertise the open house to the neighbors, maybe the week before or that same morning. Because the majority of people that are gonna come through are gonna be neighbors. They wanna know what that house looks like inside. They've been wondering for years what that house looks like inside. I remember there's a listing I had for lease here in Columbus Grove. And I got so many neighbors because the outside of it looks really nice. And it stands out from all the other houses in the neighborhood. And everybody just came in to like, I wondered forever what this house looks like inside because it's just so nice outside. Like, okay, I like it, but they just wanted to see it, they were just curious. So you're gonna get mostly neighbors come through, but you never know, maybe they have a family member, a friend that wants to move into the neighborhood. And there you go. Make sure you add the open house date and time to the MLS. And from the MLS, it's gonna auto-populate to all the other websites. But try not to do it like on Friday, because if in case there's an issue with the auto-populate to all the other websites, you wanna do it maybe Wednesday, no later than Thursday, to give it a few days to auto-populate. There's been issues in the past before. You also wanna complete your agent visual inspection disclosure. I would do it before I start getting any offers, right? So this is already done and you have all your seller's disclosures, you're gonna send this along with that to the buyer or to the buyer's agent. And again, the agent visual inspection disclosure is a visual inspection. I know you guys are here for the class, for the meeting on Tuesday, and it's just visual inspection. It's your job not to go through and turn the lights off and on, do they work? Turn all the faucets on, do they work? That's not your job, it's just what do you see that is not right? Is there any deficiencies, is there a broken window, torn carpet, broken tile, things like that you can see? So again, send out the seller disclosures for the seller to sign along with your AVID. And like I mentioned before, it's important to have all these things, all the disclosures signed, so maybe you get an offer after the first weekend of open houses. You want to send these out right away. Then you're gonna have your open house, host your open house, and you're gonna have either 1, 2, or 3 different forms there. At the open house, you're gonna have the open house visitor non-agency disclosure, which is just pretty much a sign-in sheet. And this is for buyers that either have an agent or they don't want you to represent them. You're gonna have them sign their name, so that way if you answer any questions, they can't come back and sue you or say that, you said you were acting as their agent, but you screwed them over, whatever it is. By signing this, they're saying you're not representing them. Or they already have an agent and their agent name. So you can either have them sign that, or you can have them sign the buyer representation and broker compensation agreement, which means you're gonna represent them on the purchase of that home or any other home for a period of not to exceed 90 days. Or you're gonna have them sign the property showing and representation agreement, which limits it to, I think, 3 properties that you can write down, instead of saying Orange County or, Southern California, whatever it is. This will limit it to 1, 2, or 3 properties. So what you can do is if a buyer comes through and they say, I don't want you to represent me to look for any of the properties, but only to represent me for this property, to buy this property. So then you have to sign that form, the property showing representation agreement. You're gonna write in the property address saying that you're only representing them on the purchase of this property. This is how much they're gonna pay you commission or whatever it is, right? Or agree to pay you. So any questions on the 3 different forms? I might even have them here. No, I don't. Any questions on this? No? All right. Then you're gonna present all offers. So hopefully after the open house, you're gonna hopefully get a bunch of offers. You're gonna review them with the seller. You can even summarize them with this summary of multiple offers, which is found in SIP forms, where you're just gonna write down certain information about each offer, so the seller can see them side by side and compare them. And sometimes this is good to use because they're gonna say, okay, they're offering more, but they're offering cash and there's no contingencies, and compared to this one next to it, they're 17-day contingencies, they're getting a loan, they want the 38-day escrow compared to a 15-day escrow. So when they see a side by side like this, I think it makes it clear as to what they want to accept. Then you're gonna either accept an offer, or you're gonna send out counter offers. But make sure that you prepare the seller for that when you're presenting the offers. They can either accept it, or maybe if they're not happy with it, or they don't agree to all the terms, you can send a counter offer out. And once you send out counter offers or accepted an offer, and eventually accepted an offer, you're gonna open escrow. And that's always a good thing. So what happens next after you open escrow? What happens is you're gonna email the executed residential purchase agreement and counter offers, or if there's addendums as well, to the escrow company. And you're gonna want to include the seller's name, phone number, and email address, because escrow is gonna reach out to them with wire instructions, and I believe that's on the next. No, let's stay on this really quick. So they're gonna send wire instructions to the buyer to send their deposit, but you're also, so let me step back here. Because I have the buyer's class and then the seller's class all mixed in here. So you as the listing agent are going to send the purchase agreement and any addendums or counteroffers to escrow, along with the seller's name, phone number, email address, and the buyer's agent's name and contact information. Then escrow is going to reach out to the buyer's agent and ask them for the buyer's contact information. And then they're gonna then send the wire instructions for the deposit to the buyer. And escrow instructions to everybody. Okay, let me clear that up, because I didn't want to confuse you guys. Is that confusing at all? Right. So now after you open escrow, you want to send all the seller's disclosures to the buyer side. And you have 7 days to deliver that, by the way, for the contract. So deliver it within those first 7 days. I like to do it right away, just to get it out of the way. And if the buyer asks for a termite inspection and the seller agreed to it, or agreed to pay for it, then you as a listing agent would have to order the termite inspection. If applicable, right, if they did agree to it. And then at some point during the transaction, if the seller agrees to any repairs, make sure that repairs are completed by the day of the final walkthrough, which is 5 days prior to closing. And the famous timeline. You guys want me to go over this?
Sure.
You haven't seen this, right?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, it doesn't hurt. I think the more you see it, the more it like kicks in, the more you understand it. Okay. So again, this is based on a 30-day escrow. Let me see who's online, who hasn't seen this. Because I know most of you have seen this. I love this thing. Okay. This is based on 30-day escrow. So the day of acceptance is day 0. The next day is day 1. So today's Thursday, today's day 0, tomorrow will be day 1. Make sense? Okay. So within the first 3 days up here, the seller must request HOA docs, but escrow is going to do this. Escrow is going to order HOA docs, but the seller has to pay for it. And it could be a few $100s to, it could be $200 to $500 for, or maybe even more, depending on if they rush it for escrow docs. I mean, for HOA docs, I'm sorry. And as far as buyer's responsibilities, that's it within the first 3 days, but within the first 5 days, let's see. Nothing for the seller there. Okay, within the first 7 days, the seller's disclosures and reports must go out to the buyer. We talked about the seller's disclosures. Then let's see, deliver preliminary title report. The preliminary title report is gonna be ordered through escrow. Also, any disclosures if there's any leases on the property or any liens on the property. Delivery update on our status, that's for tax purposes. That's all part of the seller's disclosures. And the seller must have smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors working and the water heater braced before the appraiser comes out. So all that has to be done before the appraiser comes out. So that all has to be done within the first 7 days. And then what happens, then the buyer has, if we're going by the default language on the contract, the buyer has 17 days to remove their contingencies. So they can cancel at any time for any reason, pretty much, until they remove their contingencies. So what you could do on day 15, 2 days prior to that happening, the seller, you can send out a notice to buyer to perform to remove contingencies. That means when you send this out, the buyer has 2 days to remove their contingencies, which would be day 17. And if they don't, then on day 18, the seller can cancel. This is one of the only outs for the seller. Within this time, the seller can't cancel for any reason. Even if the buyer doesn't, let's say you're not sending the notice to perform. The buyer hasn't removed contingencies on day 17. The seller can't just say, okay, they didn't remove them, we're gonna cancel. They can't. The buyer, the transaction moves on to day 21. Still haven't removed them. The seller still can't cancel. The only way they can cancel is if the seller sends a notice to the buyer to perform. And then the buyer doesn't perform within 2 days. Then the seller can cancel on day 3. So this is the earliest that you can send it. You can send it at any point after that, but that's the earliest you can send it,
15 days?
on the 15th day, per the default language. But let's say the buyer says they're gonna remove contingencies on the 10th day on the contract, and everybody agrees to it. Then you can send it on day 8, 2 days prior to the day, performance day. Does that make sense? No?
But they have up until day 10, right?
Yes.
To remove contingency.
Yes, but if you send the notice to buyer to perform on day 8, it's telling the buyer, hey, if you don't remove them when you said you're supposed to,
I see,
I can cancel. Not I'm going to, I can't.
okay. I see.
But that's the only out for the seller,
Right,
right, within this time frame.
yeah.
That kind of sucks. Right, and the buyer can just like lollygag throughout the whole thing, he's just like, all right, will I cancel? Will I not cancel? That's what's gonna happen, right? So the buyer they have 17 days to remove their contingencies for the inspection, of the property, loan, appraisal, investigation, which is inspection, property insurance, homeowner's insurance, review of seller documents, so the seller, disclosures you sent, right, they have to remove contingency on that. Preliminary title report, common interest, which is HOA, review of lease or lien items. Sale of buyer's property, if applicable. So also if the buyer has to sell their property to buy this property, there's maybe a contingency in place, then that would be applicable, but let's say it's not, so we don't have to worry about that. So now let's say that the buyer, and then, so I'm not bringing this up because we're not representing the buyer, we're not doing the buyer's class, but within this time frame between 1 to, let's say, 10 days, the buyer's gonna probably order an inspection report, they're gonna inspect the property, and they're also gonna negotiate requests for repairs, if there's any repairs that need to be made, or a credit for them. So let the seller know, hey, after the buyer brings their inspector out and they get the report, they might ask you to fix some stuff, or to give them a credit, so prepare them for that. But also, I forgot to mention, if the seller agreed to order a termite report and pay for it, you want to do that as soon as possible, maybe on the 1st or 2nd day after escrow opens. The sooner you get it, the better. Send it out to them. And let's see. By the 5 days before closing, any repairs that the seller agreed to make must be made, because that's when the buyer does their final walkthrough. And then also, if there's any tenants living in the property, they should be out by this time. And then by day 30 is close of escrow. So right now, we're only talking about the listing side, what the seller has to do. For the buyer's class, we'll talk about what the buyer has to do during the transaction, but it's pretty simple there. Is there any confusion or any questions?
I have one question on,
Yeah.
let's say you're in escrow and, the buyer backs out on like day 16, right? Does that get added to the days on market? So like, let's say you're like 20 days on market and then it goes pending, right?
Yeah.
So then they back out at day 16, does that mean you're at 36 days on market?
That's a good question. So, once you accept an offer, you go from active status in the MLS, you have to go in to change it to pending status. Thank you for bringing that up, because I usually don't talk about that, in this class. When you accept an offer, you should change the status to either active under contract or pending. When it goes to pending, the days on market stop. So if it was on the market for a week, 7 days, you change it to pending, it stays at 7 days, even if you're into the 15th day, it stays at seven days. It's how many days is it being marketed, that's what it is. But if you change the status to active under contract, the days keep going, because they're still, you're saying, hey, we're still accepting backup offers, or maybe, we're not sure if this is gonna go through, so, submit offers, you can still show the property. But when you change it to pending, it stops the days on market. That's a good question. And then let's say the buyer cancels, and then you change it back to active, then you start day 8, day 9, day 10, and so forth. All right, so you guys get this? You guys understand it? Okay, so let me ask you some questions. Let me see. Okay. Instead of you guys asking me questions, because you guys know everything, you have no questions, right? Now I'm gonna ask you guys. For the default language in the purchase contract, how many days does the seller have to send out the disclosures to the buyer?
That's
7 days,
Nice. But when should we do it?
first day.
I would, yeah. And then when's the soonest that a seller can send out a notice to perform based on the default language of the purchase contract?
2 days
15?
before.
Yeah, 15, yeah. So but I said based on the
Being
default language, yeah, but that's the right answer. If the seller agrees to pay for a termite inspection, when do you order it?
First time.
Yeah, I would do it the first day, I would do it right away. Okay, so. Let's see, what other questions can I ask you guys? How many days do I have to enter it to the MLS after my beginning listing date?
2 days.
2 days. You have to enter it, yeah, no later than 2 days after the beginning date. So here's something that I didn't talk about. And I don't want to confuse you guys, but there's so on the listing contract, I guess we could say that for a listing contract class, which not much to it, but you have the beginning date. Let me actually go back to that page. Let's see. This is important because even now, some of the experienced agents don't get it. Okay. So you have here on 2-1A, right? This is the beginning date. This is like, let's say you're sitting down with your seller and you say, the beginning date's today, sign it, and then you have the prepared date up on top, the date prepared on top. The date prepared is simply a reference date. It has nothing to do with the beginning date of the contract. It's just a reference date. It just means we did this today. The beginning date can be on 2A1, it could be today, it could be Saturday, let's say we're gonna go live on Saturday, or it could be October 17th. We can go live on October 17th, like a future date. And then at the end of this, there's the sign date. So the beginning date is always gonna be either the beginning date here or the sign date, the later of the two. So let's say the beginning date is today on this contract, right? The 11th, September 11th. but the sellers don't sign it until Saturday the 13th. What's the beginning date? The 11th or the 13th? Yes, the later of the two. If they sign it today, but the beginning date on the contract is October 15th, is today the beginning date or October 15th?
15.
Yeah, whichever the later of the two, the 15th. What about if the prepare date is today?
That doesn't matter, right?
Good, true question. All right, so the only time you're gonna use that prepare date is if there's a counter offer. Sorry, if not counter offer. Prepare date for an offer would be counter offer to the purchase contract dated this date. But if you're gonna do an addendum to this, it's gonna be an addendum to the listing agreement dated this date.
So if they sign at a later date, would you change the beginning date then on the contract?
No, it would just, whatever date they signed is the beginning date.
So
Okay,
you don't have to go back and change it then, the day they actually sign.
no, it's just the beginning date is the sign date. Now, also there's active status, there's register status, and there's coming soon status. What's the difference between the three? Active. Today's the beginning date, they signed it today, we're gonna go on the MLS today, we're gonna go live, or we can. But you have 2 days to enter to the MLS, right? But let's say we add it today. And then there's register status. Register status means, I'm getting the contract signed today, and the beginning date is today. But there's another page within the listing agreement that says, don't begin marketing it until October 15th. So what I'm gonna do then is, yeah, my listing contract starts today. So that means I'm gonna register to the MLS. I'm gonna let the MLS know, okay, I have this listing. But you're not adding it to the MLS. You're just letting the MLS know you have it. In case another agent comes by and says, hey, I got this listing, say, nope, I had it first, right? And it's just letting them know you have it. But by the 15th, you have to go active into the MLS. That's the registered status. And you would want to do that because the alternative would be, let's just make the beginning date October 15th here. Right? So now you don't have to register, you don't have to add it to the MLS until the 15th of October. But you're not protected within that time. If somebody swoops in and says, hey, I have a buyer for your property, and it's October 12th, the seller has no obligation to you at that point. They could just accept that offer, close the deal, and you don't get commission. So that's why it's important that if you want to get the listing today, it's going to begin today, and then you're going to register into the MLS. But on the multiple listing advisory, which is another form within the listing agreement, there's a date that says, do not begin marketing until this date. So that has to be filled out to the future date. And again, you're going to notify the MLS. There's a section in the MLS for registered listings. And so that's the difference between active and registered. And then for the coming soon, you have this listing agreement that begins today. And then you're going to have the coming soon form also signed, but it's saying that it's going to be coming soon status, not active, which means you cannot show the property, but you can advertise it. And on the coming soon form, there's a specific date that says, leave it on coming soon status until no more than 21 days. So it could be any date less than 21 days, right? Up to 21 days. But let's say we're going to do 21 days. So leave it on coming soon status for 21 days. And why would someone want to do this? Maybe they have a few things that they have to finish on the property. You want to start marketing it, getting people excited about it, but maybe they have to finish painting, or maybe replacing the carpet, or maybe moving out or doing whatever they're going to do. And they don't want to miss out on the advertising, the excitement of getting it, letting people know about it. And then it goes active after the 21st day, and now you can start showing the property. So that's what coming soon status is versus registered versus active. That make sense? Any questions? Archie. When's the beginning date of a listing contract? Oh. Okay, I guess not. Summer, when's the beginning date of a listing contract?
You know what? Actually, I just came back. I was out of, I had to take phone call. I wasn't really paying attention.
Oh, okay, Sonia, when's the beginning date of a listing contract?
I know I heard something about October 18, but I didn't really follow.
Okay,
I'll just be honest.
okay, so the beginning date of a listing contract is the later of the two. Either the beginning date here on the screen or the signature date.
Oh, okay.
Whichever's later, that's the beginning date.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes,
Okay.
the beginning date on the contract or the sign date, whichever is the last,
Yeah, whichever one's the later.
later, yes.
All right, anybody have any questions? Okay, we will leave it at that then.
So I have a question, Carlos.
Yes,
You said the day they signed the agreement, how far the agreement need to be signed?
so are you saying when do they have to sign it?
I mean, yeah, just, you know, in general, just to, yeah, I mean, let's assume they have the date, but it took time to sign the agreement. So there is period of time.
It depends on what the beginning date is here, like what you see on the screen on
Okay.
section 2A1. If the beginning date is today,
Okay.
on there, and then you email it to them for signatures, and maybe they don't get to it till tomorrow, and they sign it tomorrow, that means that tomorrow will be the beginning date of the contract, even though on here it says today's beginning date.
Okay.
Because they signed it tomorrow, then tomorrow would be the beginning date.
Oh, okay. Got it.
But if on this contract, you set the beginning date to be October 15th, and you email it to them and they signed it today or tomorrow, then that means October 15th would be the beginning date. So whichever one the later is,
Okay.
later date.
Thanks.
And this is, guys, this is confusing. A lot of agents still don't like get it. So I'm hoping that you guys change that and like, you guys know the beginning date is later of the two. So, okay, we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right.
Bye.